Thank you, council members. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Appreciate it. So I wanted just to give you a little background of why we might be having some of these issues around cyclist safety. Is because there's a lot more cyclists on the road than there's ever been, and a lot of that has to do with leadership around in this room and the leadership of Mayor Parker. So next slide. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what Houston has done, and the mayor has done, and Mayor Pro Tem and others in this room have done over literally the last 2 or 3 years to have to encourage bicycling, encourage more people to get out on the streets, and really promote bicycling as a viable alternative transportation. So this is just a couple photos of the mayor and all the time she's been on either a bike share or in some of our, we just had Tour de Houston last week, which was wildly successful, even though it was pouring rain. We still had the same amount of people show up for it as we did last year when it was a beautiful day. So, so there's a lot of interest in these things. We also recently received from bicycle-friendly communities for the first time an actual designation as a bronze community, which is pretty significant, which shows we're making progress. We got to get to platinum, right? But at least we actually got a designation of bronze, which is exciting. Next slide. One of our big initiatives, as most of you know, is Houston e-cycle or Houston bike share. We launched that literally not even a year ago, the full program. It's wildly successful. Next slide. We have 29 stations, 230 bikes, 600 riders a week, 2,000 checkouts, and about 45 checkouts a week per station, which is great. Some of our most popular stations are Sabine Bridge, the zoo, a couple downtown. So where there's either lots of recreational activity or lots of density, we see really, really great usage. And so we're trying our best to increase that into other neighborhoods as time goes on and have a really vibrant, successful program that rivals some of the largest ones in the country. Next slide. We have worked really closely with Metro, Houston Bike Share has, and the city to try to encourage people to use biking as that last mile, right? So people can take Metro, take the rail, but a lot of times they have to go a little further, and it might be too far to walk. So Metro has done an amazing job with their bike parking on their vehicles, and we've located a lot of our bike share station kiosks on Metro stops so that people can commute using bus and bike to get to where they need to go. Next slide. We have an amazing amazing trail network. Really one of the best in the nation. We have 350 miles plus another 100 miles in the county of bike trails bike trails. They're not on street. They're off street. It's an amazing network. People love it. It's only getting bigger as Bayou Greenways 2020 and other things come online. But there's gaps in between some of these significant trails, and we're working very hard to close those gaps. So we've done some work on Columbia Tap. We just fixed a gap on that trail, and you can see literally the few days after we opened the gap, we have people walking on it and bicycling on it. We're also fixing a gap from Columbia Tap to Discovery Green. That will be fixed as well. The Parks Department has done an amazing job getting grants. We actually, for the first time, got a Tiger grant, and that work is actually happening as we speak to build another bike trail and other work. So a lot of departments and a lot of folks are really engaged in this effort. It's not just one person. It is a very, very collaborative effort. Next slide. Safe passing ordinance. You obviously heard a lot about this from HPD, but this was passed with the impetus of Mayor Pro Tem Gonzalez and Mayor Parker to really protect bicyclists, cyclists, and pedestrians and vulnerable road users on the road. Obviously, we passed that last year, and now the work is to enforce that. And that is what HPD and Mayor's Office is doing, is working very hard on trying to enforce and educate people about the safe passing ordinance. Next slide, please. Critical mass, you also heard about this from HPD. This is again another sign that bicycling has exploded in Houston because, and this is what has happened in other cities, that critical mass is actually an indicator of cycling kind of exploding when you have a lot more people. I mean, critical mass has been out there for many, many years. And it's only literally in the last year and a half that we have now seen thousands of riders, not just hundreds of riders, doing critical mass on Fridays. So the mayor's office and HPD and others really worked hard to try to engage critical mass in the dialogue that HPD talked about earlier, and we actually have a very successful partnership. That is not that it does not come easy. Many other cities have not been as successful as we have been in trying to foster that dialogue. So we're really excited about the fact that we're having good dialogue and good working relationships and making critical mass fun and successful and not a burden on motorists and not and good for cyclists as well. Next slide. Complete Streets, another extremely collaborative initiative. You can see all the organizations that were part of the coalition for Complete Streets. Many of them are in the room today. Houston Tomorrow and others. AARP by Houston were extremely huge supporters of this. Mayor Pro Tem was a huge supporter, Councilmember Cohen and others. We have some Complete Streets now. We're working hard on others. These photos are of Bagby Street that was open. We actually received the first designation, one of the first in the country actually, of a Green Roads project. Green Roads is trying to be for streets what LEED is for buildings, right? So LEED is a designation. If you have a green building, you get a designation. They're trying to say if you have a green road, we want you to have a designation. And so we got silver certified for Bagby Street, which is a fantastic street, slows down traffic, creates great commuting for bikes and pedestrians, street furniture, landscaping, lighting, you name it. So we're really excited about the work that's coming up and that the mayor and others are going to do to continue to work hard to ensure that the streets that we're rebuilding or building are complete. Next slide, please. Bayou Greenway 2020, obviously the bicyclists in Houston, bicycling is only going to increase in Houston because of Bayou Greenway 2020. The additional trail lanes that are going to be built and the connections to those trails, right? There's a lot of effort right now to not only build the trail system along the bayous, but to also ensure that people can get from their home or metro, et cetera, to those trails in a safe way. So there's a lot of work happening on that right now. Next slide, please. Utility right-of-ways. For the first time, there's been, over the years, Houston has worked with the legislature on trying, and CenterPoint, to try to allow us to use our many miles of utility right-of-way for bike lanes or trails. We finally came to an agreement in the last legislature, and now CenterPoint and the city and our legal team, et cetera, are working on how to turn that into a reality so we can actually use some of our right-of-ways that have been really shut off and not been able to be used by anybody to be able to be used for trails and cycling. Next slide, please. And one of our last new initiatives, it's actually launching, our first one is Sunday, April 6th. I hope to see all of you or most of you out there. Sunday Streets, this is opening up streets to pedestrians and cyclists, families, dog walkers, etc. Our first one is White Oak on April 6th. Our second street will be Westheimer from Yoakum to Hazard on Sunday, May 5th. And the third street will be Washington on Sunday, June 1st. It's the first Sunday of April, May, and June. We're real excited about it. We're trying to promote it and get a lot of people out there to enjoy our streets in a different way than just being in a car. These are very successful in the other cities that have launched them. And so we're really trying to ensure that we have a fun, safe, exciting event for everybody. So I hope to see many of you out there. So where does that lead us? Next slide, please. You've already heard from the great work the police department is doing on enforcing the laws we have and working with the community and doing some outreach. The PSA that they just showed us, that was just finished yesterday, is great. But the mayor is also doing some other things. So we're launching as a city the Goal Zero Fatalities campaign. This includes the work that HPD is doing, but it also does a few other things. So the city of Houston, we actually do not have a comprehensive bicycle master plan. We have maps that show kind of where in the future we want to put bike lanes or trails, but we don't really have a plan that kind of really discusses different options for bike infrastructure, trail and on-street, priorities for where these trail lanes should go, where the funding could come from. We haven't really had those sort of high-level discussions really with ourselves and with the community. And so the community and our city staff have really been saying, you know, we really need to have a comprehensive bicycle master plan for a city this size that's really more and more focusing on bicycling. So the mayor's committing $50,000 today, and we're going to work with the private sector to find the additional funding to work on a very sophisticated bicycle master plan. Mr. Walsh, our new director of planning, his folks will lead this effort with other folks in the city, public works, mayor's office, etc., and with stakeholders to come up with a great bicycle master plan for the city. That includes on-street infrastructure, tools, ideas, and priority for making us really, really become the bike-friendly city that we want to become. So that's very exciting. We're also going to do, in addition to what HPD is doing, we're also going to look at other ways that we can educate motorists and cyclists about safe driving and riding. We want to do additional PSAs, we want to do collateral material, we want to do other things that encourage people to really pay attention, both motorists and cyclists, to what they're doing on the road, because we really believe that this is a joint effort. It's not anyone's fault per se, but we really need to come together as a community and ensure that our experience on the streets is safer. Last slide, please. Just want you to be aware of all the social media that we do on bicycling. So follow us on Green Houston TX, Houston B-Cycle, and the newly created Sunday Streets HTX. And also our websites, next slide, are also full of information on things that we're doing. greenhoustontx.gov, Sunday Streets, TX has a great website, and also Houston B-Cycle. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time today.